Hi, welcome to Blue UK Jazz Dance. Flying solo with you, Jazz Tude. Flying to Grenada, the place of my mother. My father's Jamaican, and I'm off on a journey to deepen my understanding of Grenadian culture. At the age of 53 years old, I'll be 53 this year. I'll be out there on my birthday. My mother's birthday is on the 11th of November, and my birthday is on the 7th of November, and my 8th of November, and my father died on the 7th of November 2016, so it's a memorial to my father, which is very, very important for people to understand. An important time. I was supposed to do work with my father, a creative person who was doing creative textiles. The idea was me working with him, with my son, a photographer, to develop the first ever project where dads, sons talk about dancing to jazz or dancing in the spirit of jazz. Talk about Rebirth of the Cool project I created. The project was created to make sure that individuals got an understanding that we were told as black youth, black children, as well as my father. In his time growing up in 1935, he was told that improvisation was an inferior way to learn, think, and develop. Being spontaneous is an inferior way, inferior trait, an inferior value. Childish, immature. So we want to imagine the whole of the Caribbean survival was based on improvisation. My survival from 1964 to present was based on improvisation. I'm renowned for improvising. The only way a people can survive who are hated or oppressed, who face discrimination, discriminatory laws, politics, economics, legal sanctions against them. The only way you can survive is by improvisation. Now, one of the key things as an individual, I wrote a book, I did a film, I created an exhibition a long time ago that was called Birth of the Cool in my school. And basically it was about my time in dancing, what do I love, or why do I dance? And it was destroyed. It was destroyed after I gave a presentation in my school by bullies. Twice I created a book. Twice I created documentary evidence, and it was destroyed. And one of the things that emerged from me doing the projects Birth of the Cool and Rebirth of the Cool that's emerged is my ability to, one, talk in a formal way and to write in a creative way as an individual. It all started from being at home. We used to have a game that we used to call Teacher. Yeah. So at home, we used to play Be the Teacher. Our parents taught us that. So we put ourselves into responsible roles. Or you be the director of the film. Right, I'm the director, you do this, do that. I'm the choreographer. Do you understand? I'm the composer of the music. Do you understand? I'm the producer of the film. So we start to get to understand. We start to develop our own commercial awareness around the creative industries, around education, around arts. Right, I'm a painter. Yeah, I'm Picasso. I'm Monet. And then these are important artists I talk about, visual artists, because they're all very much, all started to develop their own techniques. Why? How? Through improvisation. Today it's a sin. African diaspora youth were not taught jazz in their school, were not taught their heritage. Their heritage music, African diaspora youth were not being taught. We are the least to be educated on jazz music in this country, in Britain. We're the least to be educated on blues. We're the least to be educated on soul, funk, disco, reggae, history, legacy of leadership. How is that possible? That's possible because we have what is called a cultural assimilation education. Cultural assimilation education teaches all cultures to devalue their own culture. That's the history of colonialization. Colonialization colonized 23% of the world's population, 450 million people or 420 million people. Were educated to hate their color of their skin. You remember what was important, what the colonialists, what Britain brought and Europe brought was dark skin was a curse in the context of religion, socially, physically. Our bodies, black bodies, were warped, somehow deformed, and where that shows from an aesthetic point of view in the arts, from ballet. You all know we can't have black people doing ballet, particularly the black woman playing parts in Swan Lake. So you have to understand the importance of the significance of how the arts played a pivotal role in the creative industries, publishing, writing, films, video, theatre played a pivotal part in shaping millions of people's attitudes around black, Asian minority groups' cultures. The Birth of the Call is an amazing story. It really is about my story and my father's story and my mom's story, that we believed in our culture in a society that told us that our culture was inferior, was a fad and insignificant. I refused to believe that because I had a positive experience with it. So, example, we know today that freestyle dancing makes you feel positive about yourself, and that's what it did. I engaged in it from a child. My parents understood that this art form, son, is going to make you feel good about who you were. Now, one of the key things, my parents never thought that I would become a professional dancer. Neither did I. I didn't only become a professional dancer. It's an amazing story. Was from 0 to 6, I wanted to be a barrister and cricketer. Following the footsteps of Sir Constantine Leary. Sir Constantine Leary played cricket with his father. His dad played for the West Indies. That being a cricketer was very, very important. It was a political statement because West Indies were told that they couldn't have the ability to play cricket, they didn't have the intelligence to play cricket, they didn't have the ability to captain, and they became great players. And in his time, Constantine Leary's time, the cricket team was being controlled by a Western management of the team. Do you understand? Right. So my father taught me cricket. Cricket in the Caribbean world was politics. Okay? It's like boxing. Boxing for Muhammad Ali was politics. Martial arts was politics to Bruce Lee. He wasn't just fighting. He was fighting to raise the prestige of his people using his art form. That's what I did. And I learned that from a long time ago. Cricket is an art form. So Constantine Leary, who was a barrister, he learned the skills to stand up for his people, and he stood up for his own self. In Britain in the 1930s, he faced discrimination. He faced being distressed. By going to a hotel, he was refused entry into the hotel, etc., etc. He used his skills. I, as an individual, ironically, used dance as a tool, as a skill to show that I was equal to other people. I'm a child who was diagnosed with special education needs. Special education needs in my Catholic school and in all schools were written off by the IQ test. The IQ test was wrong. And my school did everything to try to prove that the IQ test was right. And I was doing everything to prove that IQ test was wrong. First of all, the IQ test identified I won't have the ability to take exams. The IQ test identified my aptitude. I won't have the ability to lead myself, lead others, lead organizations was not even conceived. Now, one of the key things was I struggled with writing. But I wasn't taught. See, the irony of my situation, I wasn't taught there's many ways to write. You can actually speak first and write up later. Who identified that for me at the age of 8 years old was Sir Roy Blackman. He observed, you have an amazing ability to share your ideas and thoughts. You understand concepts, but you can't write them concepts down. Do you know writing uses a different part of the brain and speaking uses a different part of the brain? So what we're going to do, we're going to get you to speak into a tape recorder, and then what you learn to do is to write up what you say. So for example, what we're going to do, we're going to give you a subject. So let's say it's early learning. Early learning of the child is SPICES, spices of life, social, physical, intellectual, cultural, emotional, spiritual. So what we're going to get you to do your essay or formal report, you're going to talk about what developed your spices of life, what developed you socially. Immediately, a whole host of things come in. So all the social things I do, one of them, sports, play, games, dance is a huge social activity within my world and other people's world, and it's holistic, and what it is, it crosses genders, whereas sports don't necessarily cross genders. Like, a lot of girls might not play football, but all girls, black girls in my community, dance. All black boys in my community dance. All elders, male and female, in my community dance. So what happened was, socializing, dance is a communal activity. We incorporated all ages, it's intergenerational. But not all generations do football or play cricket, do you understand? Right? That's the power of dance. I go to the Caribbean today, my elders would dance. So, for example, a communal experience in the Caribbean is carnival, the festivals that they have. So they're festivals that they have, say social festivals. If it was carnival, all generations are involved in it on the ground. It's a participatory art form. Do you understand? Right. So I talk about a whole list of ways. So visiting families. So how do you develop your social skills? Well, one of the key things when you're growing up, our parents have money. So what happened was, your skills will be developed by your nanny. So my nanny looked after me. Then my parents go work, they pick us up, knowing that the nanny developed our social skills. Have you got that? Our social skills we developed from rituals. So, for example, christenings, weddings. So, 1967, my parents got married. I remember that occasion in an amazing way. That's the first time on a major scale where my Jamaican family and my Grenadian family all came together for my mum and dad's wedding. Do you understand? Right. So I learned idiosyncrasies, certain social idiosyncrasies of the Grenadians, social idiosyncrasies of Jamaicans. I learned how they socially dress for a wedding, what they do, what type of things that they do. Do you understand? Because they have their own customs, their own rituals. What bonded them together was dance, because there was one common thread throughout their lives that they danced to blues, they danced to R&B, they danced to calypso within their own countries, even though they didn't meet each other before. There was a commonality in music. Jazz brought us together, and so one of the key things of having Blue UK Jazz Dance, jazz brought my parents, my identity together, because if I want to have a conversation with my father and mother, and that's what's common to them, what's common is music. The music is common to them. And it's an example, the same music, African Americans, Jamaicans and Grenadians listened to this music similar at a similar time, because our music was political. So there's certain tracks that are known throughout the whole of the world that Africans who listen to, Brazilians who listen to, Caribbean listen to. So a prime example, I'm going to put people in touch. When modern jazz came, it was known all over the world. People were listening to Coltrane. People were listening to Mingus, because it created a political statement for them. people were listening to blues because blues is what they lived. Do you understand? What was common to them? They all lived an improvisational way. There was no other way to live in the Caribbean. If you got a free tier education system, they all lived the land. For them to live, they had to use the land. And that's how my parents, when the parents came together, they both had the same values and traits from living off the land because they both had come from an agricultural environment. My parents were entrepreneurial. You cannot live in the Caribbean and not be entrepreneurial. You won't survive. You use the land to go market. So my mum knows a lot about marketing. Market. She knows about seasons, what type of food can be sold and what type of food cannot be sold. So I'm going to the Caribbean now. It's October. And my mum knows what food will be out at that time, what festivals are at that time. She knows who's going to be doing what, when, and how. So seasonal living is what my parents taught me. Do you understand? They taught me about the seasons. And if you go back to Africa, the seasons are recognized. They live by the land. Do you know what I'm saying? Land plays an important role. Now, what I'm doing today, I'm using oral history. Remember, the pharaohs had scribes. So how I write my formal reports, how I do my creative writing, exactly the same way. I use video now. In the past, what I use a cine camera. Do you get me? No one knew that. I used to use a cine camera. And that proved to be successful. And I had a tape recorder. And that proved to be successful. Now, having a cine camera allowed me to do a video straight away. So all I had to do is edit. That's how I did my films. It's like here today, boom. I can create a film. Blue, boom, talking about the importance of oral history. This is early in the morning. It's about 3-4 o'clock in the morning right now. I get ideas as a creative person. I get up and I create and write. And what happened in the past as an individual, I've gone to parts in the world, people call you crazy. So no, I'm a creative person. Creative people don't operate, 9 to 5. You go sleep, I read, I look at a lot of resources, I go to galleries, I do research. And then what happens is the ideas come. And then you get up in the morning and do my ideas. That's how I rehearse. So right now, I'm a flying solo storyteller. I've been flying solo, writing stories, performing stories, doing workshops on stories, doing fun days around my stories for individuals, to build their confidence. I've always rehearsed in the early hours in the morning. I've never rehearsed ever, that 9 to 5 time. It doesn't work like that because what is, I rehearse when I feel like to rehearse. And I rehearse when I'm walking. I rehearse when I'm at a bus stop. How I rehearse, people can't believe. So that I can't believe that you're interdisciplinary artist. Interdisciplinary artist means I'm multi-skilled in many different art forms. Do you understand? I'm very multi-skilled. So I'm a dancer. I'm a percussionist. I compose. I choreograph. I direct. I do my own set design. I just stylize my own clothes. I have my own creative hub at home, and what happens is I change the environment according to the project I'm involved in. So, example, my wallpaper is, if I'm involved in a show, for example, I coordinate, I direct a lot of fashion shows, even fashion shoots. What I do, I take the clothes, photograph them, and then what I do, I plaster my house, I decorate them around my house as wallpaper. And I wake up and I sleep. I do everything, the normal things, everyday things that I do, till I get an idea what I want to do.